Hey everybody, Dave Giltner with Turning Science. Today I want to talk about dealing with uncertainty. And certainly the big uncertainty that is on everybody's mind at the time I'm recording this is the coronavirus pandemic, which has thrown a huge amount of uncertainty into all of our lives and many of our careers as well. As you're probably aware, on Turning Science, I typically talk about career issues, but this is a big deal. It's impacting a lot of people and their careers, both their lives and their careers. And so I thought it might be useful to share some of the things I'm doing to deal with this uncertainty. I've experienced pretty major uncertainties in the past around both my career and my life, not quite like this one. But I've learned a lot from them. Specifically, twice I've lost a job because an entire site was shut down by a parent company. And so all of a sudden, a whole group of us were out looking for jobs all at the same time. On the personal side, a number of years ago, I went through a divorce after 19 years of marriage and 2 young boys, figuring out how to be a single dad. So that too was a really big uncertainty, and I felt like I had no idea where I was headed for a while. Dealing with all these uncertainties has taught me a number of things, some techniques that I'm now using in the current great period of uncertainty. My business with Turning Science here. I was supposed to be traveling around Europe and giving workshops, and all of that for the next 2 months has been canceled and put on hold, and I had to return home early, and now I'm sitting in my home office trying to figure out what's next. Now, to be clear, I am not a licensed psychologist. Don't take anything as any kind of formal psychological advice or anything. I'm simply going to tell you, here's what I'm doing, and hopefully you will find it valuable as well. My first suggestion, stick to your values and principles. They got you where you are today. They will get you out of this. You know what matters to you and what you think is behavior you can live with. It's easy in a period of great uncertainty to begin to rethink what's the right thing I should be doing right now. You may see people around you who are even panicking and perhaps acting in ways that you don't agree with. Not good to follow that. Center yourself, focus on what do I think is important and what do I think is right. Next, think about the story you'd like to tell in the future. Think ahead 2 months, 6 months, maybe a year into the future and say, when I look back on this period, and I'm talking about that with people, what do I want to be able to say about how I dealt with it? This is why your values and principles are so important. How do I want to be able to describe my reaction? Do I want to describe that I was totally turned upside down and didn't know what to do for 3 months? Or do I want to say, it was unsettling, but then I realized this is what matters and this is what I want to do, and here's how I came out of it and worked through it, and perhaps even found some kind of a benefit from all the uncertainty. I can't write your story for you, but at this point you want to think about what story do you want to be telling when you look back on this 6 months or a year from now. Third, when I'm feeling really uncertain about what to do next, I find a really great thing is to stop and think about how can I help other people? And how can my actions actually set an example for others who may not know what to do? Can I actually be an example for them? I find if I focus on that, that always helps me because I know at least some of my energy is going towards something productive. And in the meantime, I will figure out how to get everything else going for my own life or my own career. So the fourth thing that I find really valuable is something that's called fear setting. And the name comes from Tim Ferriss, who popularized this idea. If you don't know him or if you haven't heard of this, I'll put the link in the description below. But it really is a matter of sitting down and writing out specifically what is it that you are nervous about? What are you worried might happen through this period of uncertainty? When concerns or fears are just this big ambiguous blob in our head, they can seem big and scary. But when we write it down and quantify it and actually write out what do we think might actually happen, specifically what is the worst that I think could happen, just that activity alone can be a huge part of the benefit of this process. I find that to be the case, and I just did this the other day. I sat down with paper and wrote out what are the big concerns, the things I'm worried about, impact specifically on my business. Like I said, a bunch of workshops have been canceled. What do I think is going to happen? I have a son who's in college in Los Angeles, and for the moment he's camping out there. What might happen there? And I found it made a big difference to get the ideas from being this big blob in my head to actually defining them specifically and writing them out. That made a huge difference. But the next two steps that Tim suggests that are also helpful is to say, okay, now that you've defined each of the things you're concerned about, I'll bet you can think of, for each of them, something you could do to fix it if it actually came true, if it actually happened. We're pretty successful, we're pretty accomplished, we've done a lot in our lives and careers so far. I bet we can find ways that we could repair it if it actually came true. And now that we've detailed it and said specifically what we're concerned about, there's a good chance we could find something to prevent it too. What could we do to prevent it from happening in the first place now that we've quantified it, that we've been specific? It's not this vague fear in our heads. I found this to be really valuable, and if it sounds like something that might help you, I've got the link in the description below this video. Go check it out, and hopefully you will find it as helpful as I do. The fifth thing I find useful, if you're sitting there really not knowing what to do next, do something. Pick something that aligns with your values and your principles. Hopefully it moves you towards your story, the story you want to tell a year from now, but if not, just do something. What you'll find is if you just get busy doing something, it gets your brain working, and in time you will figure out the next thing to do. It's just so much better to be doing something than sitting there doing nothing with your head spinning. It could be a hobby, it could be take a walk. I found that if I do things with my hands that I know need to be done, that really helps. I pulled out the home repair list and set to work working on those. It took my mind off the things I didn't know, and I was able to, for a moment, focus on something I could do. Well, in that time, I found my brain started working on, in the background, on new ideas, and all of a sudden, I started coming up with things that I could do that would lead me towards that story I want to tell. So, bottom line, if you're sitting there, you don't know what to do something. Well, thank you for listening, and I hope you found this video helpful. This is a period of great uncertainty for all of us. We don't really know what to expect even next week, much less next month. But hopefully relaying some of these things that I've learned help in a period of great uncertainty will help you as well. And if you found it valuable, please share it with friends or colleagues who may be struggling with similar things. Hopefully they will find it helpful as well. You'll be doing them a favor. In the meantime, I hope everyone out there stays healthy, stays sane, and hopefully soon we can get back out there turning science into things people need. Thanks.